Henry enjoyed working in the forest. He knew lumber was an important commodity for the island and didn't complain when some trees were cut down and used for building materials. But he also enjoyed the peaceful, quiet nature of it. Although, in recent days and weeks, rumors flew amongst the loggers and other lumberjacks among each crew. Some conversed about strange voices coming from deep within the dense trees, especially when the men were out alone in the late evenings. Henry was talking about it to Edward one morning. "What do you think these voices could be, Edward?" "Many possibilities. The leaves rustling, wind passing through hollowed rocks. Did none of the men speculate what these voices may be saying?" "No. Only that it was unintelligible, as you say. But it sounded English, not of any foreign language or even old dialects from the past. Truly is bizarre," finished Henry. "Well, I just had a thought," said Edward. "It could also be the lads having a laugh. You know, a jolly good prank amongst co-workers." Henry chuckled. "Yeah, you're right. It could very well be that too. I'm gonna believe it's that until experience tells me otherwise," said Henry. Unfortunately for the two engines and the loggers, they would end up being dead wrong. The next morning, Henry was ready to take a train of timber away. Diesel 10 was on duty, helping load the large logs of timber onto the flatbeds. Diesel 10 backed up and down the line of logging flatbeds, while Trevor and Terrence with chains pulled stacks of freshly cut logs out of the woods. The echoes of chainsaws and engines rumbling echoed through the air, interrupted by the occasional thump of a tree being knocked over. However, throughout the day, Diesel 10 and Henry noticed some of the workers walking around with worried and skittish faces. "What's their issue?" asked Diesel 10. "Probably just the rumors flying around," Henry said dryly. "What rumors?" "Mysterious whispering voices being heard within the woods. Me and Edward just thought maybe one of the lads was having a laugh, but now that I'm seeing their behavior," Henry thought, looking around at every single worker that crossed their path. "They all look so nervous," states Diesel 10. Henry and Diesel 10 listened closely, but couldn't hear anything except the cracking and creaking of a tree being tipped over before a blood-curdling scream cut through the woods, and Diesel 10 and Henry darted their eyes towards the tree line, where multiple workmen ran towards it, all tumbling and grumbling with concern as they ran. "What was that?" cried Henry. A man then came running back out towards the foreman's tent to phone for help. When he came back out to Henry, Henry had asked what happened. Joe got crushed. The tree wasn't even cut. And it wasn't even a dead tree that would just fall over. "He's probably not going to make it," the workman said, and watched him walk back into the woods. Henry and Diesel 10 just watched as police and paramedics arrived, entering the dense tree line with a stretcher. They returned a little while later with a man-sized black bag atop it. "Oh, God," Diesel 10 groaned sadly. The workday came to an early end from the tragedy. Presently, Diesel 10 rolled away, heading home. Henry was getting ready to leave as well, when he suddenly heard something. The wind rustling the leaves as it blew past, but it was also followed by giggling. Dad'll teach him. We got him now. Invade our sanctuary today. Henry thought he was losing it. Maybe it's just shock from this sad day, he thought, puffing away back to the sheds. At Tidmouth, the engines were respectively quiet, following the tragic death of the logger. Edward breathes. "Life can be cruel sometimes, lads," he says hoarsely. The others murmured in agreement. "There's too many holes, though," Henry says, thinking out loud. Edward raises an eyebrow at him. What do you mean, old boy? What I mean is that his death was mysterious, to say the least. The tree wasn't even cut, and it was perfectly healthy, so it wasn't even about to fall. Something caused it to, Henry states. The silence was deafening in the sheds. Perhaps merely a freak of nature occurrence, Gordon states. Possibly, but what would cause that in a natural sense? Questions Henry. Maybe a lightning strike, inquires Thomas. It was clear skies, Thomas. Even if a freak bolt of lightning came down, we would have heard it. This tree just decided, I'm gonna fall over today. Unfortunately killed some poor chap. Maybe it has something to do with the voices I've been hearing about, states James. All the engines were deep in thought, until the sirens and honking in the distance of fire trucks broke through the air as a fleet of fire engines sped past the yard, all heading in the direction of the forest. Henry looked above the horizon and saw a large plume of smoke billowing above the trees. The forest's on fire, Henry shouts. Diesel 10 hums past the yards, tooting his horn. There's a 4-alarm wildfire, lads. I can use some assistance. The breakdown train, quickly! Henry wasted no time coupling up to the breakdown train and immediately pulls out of the sheds to join Diesel 10 in the fire brigade, coupling himself and heading into the direction of the towering inferno within the woods. The scene was of mass chaos, but the firefighters worked hard to contain the flames. Diesel 10 immediately began clearing charred trunks of trees from the rails as Harold circled overhead, directing the firefighters via radio below. It was a little after midnight by the time the last of the flames were put out, and what stood before them was a charred, wooden, smoldering pile of logs. Firefighters began packing up their gear and leaving, as the fire marshal began investigating for a cause. Terrence was plowing away charred waterlogged remains of trunks and hit something that made a loud pang sound, like metal. Terrence's driver immediately pulled out a flashlight, aiming it down at the ground to see what he had hit. And Terrence glanced down in surprise, as it was the half-buried smoke box of an engine. As the moon began to dip down towards the end of the night, a whole rusted hulk of a tank engine was unearthed from the ground, as well as several others. It looked like a mass grave. Ugh, that is really creepy, admitted Diesel 10. The biggest question I have is what are they doing here? Of all places, buried under the ground in the forest? Henry questioned. Henry then thought he heard a deep-sounding giggle. He looks at Diesel 10 with an unamused look. What the hell's so funny? What are you talking about? Asked Diesel 10. I heard you snicker, stated Henry. I didn't laugh at all, Diesel 10 grimaced. Maybe we've been working too hard. I could have sworn I heard something or someone laugh, Henry states. Diesel 10 goes to reverse down the line back away from Henry, until his back bogey suddenly grind and come off the rails, bouncing through the sleepers. Oh! Henry, I've come off the rails. How? How? How am I supposed to know? That's done it, said his driver. Until we get a heavy-duty crane to hoist you up, you're gonna have to stay here tonight, Callum. Crap! Groaned Diesel 10, and then looked at Henry. Please promise me you'll get here early. I got an eerie feeling spending the night here. It's only about 4 hours till morning, Diesel 10. I suggest you try to get some rest, stated Henry, as uncomfortable as your situation is. Diesel 10 sighs. I'll try to get here as early as I can, Henry says, backing away, leaving Diesel 10 alone in the woods. The only noise was of the slight gust of wind whispering through the trees. He looked around in the woods beside him, before within the rustling of the trees he heard whispering, unintelligible, but it had the tone of malicious cheekiness. "What? Who's there?" Diesel 10 asked wearily, and the voices responded, "Fresh meat. Fresh meat. Salt fresh. Always the freshest." Diesel 10 rattled with fright at the creepy whispers. "I gotta wake up! I gotta wake up! Wake up! Wake up! This is just a dream." But the horrifying, creepy voices just kept increasing in their noise, getting more and more distorted. Then Diesel 10 looked ahead of him, and he saw the 4 silhouettes of hulking steam engines in the distance. Rusted wheels groaned and squeaked closer to Diesel 10 as the silhouettes moved. "No! Stay back!" Diesel 10 wailed. Suddenly, as they moved closer towards Diesel 10 can make out the melted and skull-like faces on the front of their smoke boxes. As a man's voice cut through the air, shouting unintelligible chants, causing the 4 engines to back off. A man stepped in front of Diesel 10, shielding him. Diesel 10 recognized the man as Old Bailey, the fogman. The shadows began to fade into the blackness. The silhouettes disappeared into the darkness, fading into the night, away from Diesel 10. Old Bailey just sighed. "Phew, thank goodness I got to you before they did." "What the hell's going on?" Diesel 10 splutters. "Something even the most twisted horror novelist would never be able to comprehend," replies Old Bailey. "It's nothing you or anyone else should be concerned with, though. Although I've already talked to the Fat Controller. This logging company is shutting down and relocating elsewhere." "Why?" asked Diesel 10 curiously. And Old Bailey just looks at him with a cold, dark stare. "Because you have disturbed them," is all he says. "Who is them?" Diesel 10 asks, but his question would go unanswered by the mysterious fogman. The next morning, Henry kept to his word, and early in the morning, Diesel 10 was lifted back onto the rails. Nearly the whole team throughout the span of 10 hours began dismantling and moving the logging equipment to a new location on the island. All that remained were the unearthed hills of engines found in the soil, and a few other items of debris. Diesel 10 told Henry what happened that night, but the big green engine didn't know what to say, nor could come up with a reason for Old Bailey's involvement. What secrets is that old man hiding? We might never know.